I never believed in curses or haunted things. I always thought stories about mirrors being cursed were just made up to scare people. But after what I went through, I'm not so sure anymore. A few months ago, I moved into an old house with my girlfriend. The house was kind of run down, but cheap, and that's all we could afford at the time. The basement was cold and dark, with concrete walls and a weird smell, like damp earth mixed with something metallic. One day, while cleaning, I found an old, tall mirror shoved in the corner under some dusty boxes. The frame was cracked, and the glass was a little cloudy, but otherwise it looked fine. I decided to take it upstairs and hang it in our bedroom. It was big, and we didn't have a full-length mirror before, so it made sense. That night was the first time I noticed something odd. We'd gone to bed, and I was lying there, staring at the mirror from across the room. It stood against the wall near the closet. The room was dark, but I could see the faint outline of my reflection. I blinked, and it looked like my reflection hesitated before it blinked back, like it wasn't quite matching my movements. I told myself I was just tired and imagining things. But then I saw it again. I was sitting on the edge of the bed, putting on my socks, and in the mirror, my reflection didn't move the same way. It stayed still for a second longer before copying me. It felt like there was a delay, like something was watching me through the mirror. I decided to ignore it, thinking it was just my eyes playing tricks. Over the next few days, things got worse. One night, I woke up around 3 a.m. to a faint tapping sound. It was soft, like someone was tapping their fingernails on glass. I looked toward the mirror. It was pitch dark, but I could see the tapping reflected. I tried to call out, but my voice caught in my throat. The tapping stopped. I lay there, my heart pounding, and I noticed my reflection smiling. But I wasn't smiling. My reflection's lips moved slowly into a crooked grin, and its eyes looked darker than usual. There was something wrong in the way it stared at me. I covered my face with my hands and told myself to stop being ridiculous. The next morning, I took the mirror back to the basement and leaned it against the wall in the corner. But the tapping didn't stop. Sometimes, when I walked by, I could hear quiet breathing, like someone just behind the mirror. The basement smelled worse than before, damp, and something sour I couldn't place. One night, I was down there, trying to clean, and I caught my reflection in the mirror again. Only this time, it wasn't me. The face looked pale, and the eyes were hollow, like black holes. It tilted its head slowly, as if studying me. I froze. The air felt colder, like a cold hand brushing against my skin. Even though I was alone, ran upstairs and slammed the basement door shut. I tried to throw the mirror away, but it always ended up back in the basement. No matter what I did, it was like it didn't want to leave. Now, every time I walk past the basement door, I feel like someone is watching me from behind the glass. I swear I hear faint breathing or soft tapping on the other side. The mirror is still down there waiting. I don't know what it wants. I don't know if it's really cursed, but I can't get rid of that feeling. That something is trapped behind that glass, and it's looking for a way out. When I first moved into my college dorm, everything felt exciting and new. I was nervous, but also happy to start this new chapter in my life. The dorm wasn't fancy. Old brick building, narrow hallways, tiny rooms. But it was mine for the year. I shared the room with a roommate named Jake. We got along okay. Nothing special. Nothing weird. A few weeks after I moved in, I found an old mirror shoved behind my dresser. It was tall and narrow, the kind you can lean against a wall. The frame was scratched and chipped, but I liked it because it was big, enough to see my whole body. I cleaned it up and set it in the corner of the room near the window. It reflected the little space we had, the bed, the desk, the tiny closet. At first, everything was normal. But then, strange things started to happen. It began one night when I was studying late. The dorm was mostly quiet, just the hum of the heater and the soft scratching of my pen on paper. The only light was from my desk lamp. I glanced up toward the mirror to check my reflection. I noticed something odd. My reflection's eyes were looking behind me, not at me. I froze for a moment. I turned around slowly. No one was there. I laughed it off. Maybe I was tired or imagining things. But the next night, it got worse. I was brushing my teeth in the bathroom, which was just down the hall. When I came back, the dorm hallway was empty and dark. I caught a glimpse of the mirror from my room, and I swear I saw my reflection's face twitch into a strange, almost angry expression. My heart raced, and I blinked. When I looked again, it was normal. I decided not to say anything to Jake. I didn't want to sound crazy. But that night, I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing soft tapping, like fingernails on glass, coming from the corner of the room where the mirror was. I told myself it was just the building settling, or maybe the rain against the window. The next morning, Jake asked me if I'd heard weird noises at night. I said no. He said he hadn't either. Days went by, but I kept feeling uneasy around that mirror. Sometimes, when I looked at it from the bed, I felt like it was watching me, like it wasn't just reflecting me. It was something else. One night, around midnight, I woke up suddenly. The room was pitch black, but I felt cold, colder than usual. My eyes adjusted to the dark, and I saw the mirror faintly glowing with a soft, pale light. I sat up slowly, heart pounding. I could see my reflection clearly. But it wasn't just me. There was a shadow behind my reflection's shoulder. A dark shape, barely visible, like someone standing right behind me in the mirror world. I turned my head quickly. The room was empty. I looked back at the mirror, and the shadow was gone. I felt sick and scared, but I tried to calm myself down. Maybe it was a trick of the light or my imagination. I pulled the blanket over my head and closed my eyes tight. But the feeling didn't go away. The next morning I told Jake I wanted to move the mirror to the closet. He helped me lift it and slide it inside the small closet, so it wouldn't be in the open. For a while things seemed better. But then I started seeing small things in the mirror's reflection that weren't real. One evening, I was sitting at my desk when I noticed in the mirror that my reflection was holding a book, but I didn't have a book in my hand. I blinked and looked down. My hands were empty. I looked back at the mirror, and the reflection was still holding the book. It opened the pages slowly, but no words appeared. The pages were blank. I felt a cold chill run down my spine. I reached for the mirror's frame, ready to take it out of the closet for good, when I heard a soft voice. It was barely a whisper, coming from the mirror. "Don't leave." I dropped, my hand terrified. The voice was low, almost desperate. I backed away from the closet, shaking. That night, I barely slept. The mirror stayed in the closet, but I could still hear tapping and soft whispering sometimes. I was too scared to look inside. One day, I was packing to go home for the weekend, and I had to clear out my stuff. I opened the closet and looked at the mirror. For a moment, I thought I saw my reflection smile. A cold, cruel smile that didn't belong to me. I grabbed the mirror and tried to carry it down the hall to the trash. But the moment I touched it, the temperature dropped sharply. My fingers went numb, and I heard that whisper again. "Stay." I dropped the mirror, and it hit the floor with a heavy crack. I ran down the hallway, not looking back. I never went back to that dorm room. I don't know what was in that mirror, or why it wanted me to stay. but I'm sure it was more than just a reflection. Sometimes, at night, I still hear faint tapping on glass, and I wonder if that mirror is waiting for someone else to notice it. Last year, I had to travel for work. It was a short trip, just 2 nights in a small town far from home. I wasn't worried at first. I stayed in a cheap old hotel. Nothing fancy, but it was close to where I had my meetings. The hotel lobby smelled like old carpet and a hint of cleaning chemicals. The walls had faded wallpaper peeling in places. The elevator was slow and creaked every time it stopped. When I got to my room on the 3rd floor, I noticed a large mirror hanging on the wall opposite the bed. It was tall, with a dark wooden frame covered in strange carvings that looked old and worn. I didn't think much of it at first. Just a normal hotel mirror, I assumed. That first night, after I unpacked, I sat on the bed and looked at myself, in the mirror. The reflection was clear, but something felt off. I couldn't explain it. As I got ready to sleep, I noticed the room was unusually cold, colder than the air conditioning setting. I pulled the blanket tighter around me. Then, I saw it. Out of the corner of my eye, the mirror showed a movement behind me. I turned quickly, but there was nothing there, just the empty room. I told myself I was just tired, or maybe it was the shadows playing tricks. But the cold didn't go away. It felt like a chill that settled in my bones. Around midnight, I woke up because I heard soft knocking. It wasn't loud, but it was steady. I thought it might be someone at the door, or maybe noise from another room. When I looked toward the mirror, I saw my reflection sitting on the bed, but my real body was lying still under the blanket. My reflection raised a hand slowly, and the knocking sound matched the movement, like it was tapping on the mirror from the inside. I froze. My heart raced so fast I thought I might pass out. The knocking stopped, and my reflection blinked, then smiled, a slow, cold smile that didn't reach its eyes. I covered my face with the blanket and didn't dare look again. The next day, I told the front desk about the weird mirror. They said the hotel was old and had lots of history, but nothing about any haunted mirrors. I asked if I could change rooms, but the hotel was full. That night, things got worse. I was brushing my teeth when I glanced into the mirror from the bathroom door. The reflection showed me brushing my teeth. But behind me, in the mirror, I saw a shadow, tall and thin, standing still, watching. I spun around. No one was there. Back at the bed, I tried not to look at the mirror, but I felt it watching me. Around 2 a.m., I woke up again to that tapping. This time it was louder, like someone was knocking from inside the glass. I sat up and stared at the mirror. My reflection was gone. Instead, there was only darkness. Then, suddenly, the tapping turned into faint whispering. I couldn't make out the words, but it sounded like someone begging for help or warning me. The room grew colder. My breath came out in little clouds. I wanted to run, but my legs felt frozen. I blinked, and the whispering stopped. The mirror returned to normal, showing only my scared face. The next morning, I packed quickly. I told the hotel I was leaving early. When I carried my bags down the hall, I glanced at the mirror again. For a brief second, I saw the shadow standing behind me, its dark eyes locked on mine. I walked outside and didn't look back. To this day, I still think about that mirror. I don't know what was inside it or why it was trying to communicate, but I'm sure it was waiting for me. And maybe it's still waiting for the next person to check into that room. I never thought a mirror could scare me. I mean, it's just glass, right? But what happened to me in my school bathroom changed how I see mirrors forever. It was my junior year of high school. Our school was pretty old. Brick walls, creaky floors, and that smell of dust mixed with cleaning soap. The bathrooms were the worst part. Always cold, with cracked tiles and flickering lights. You could hear pipes dripping somewhere behind the walls. One day, after gym class, I went to the girls' bathroom to fix my hair. The bathroom was empty, except for me. I walked up to the mirror above the sink, the one that was old, with spots and cracks on the edges. As I looked in, I noticed something strange. For a split second, my reflection didn't move when I did. I blinked, moved my head again, and this time, my reflection smiled at me. But I wasn't smiling. I froze, my hand still raised to fix my hair. The reflection's smile stayed wide, almost too wide, like it was mocking me. I looked away quickly and told myself it was just my imagination. Maybe the flickering light was playing tricks. I washed my hands and left the bathroom fast. But that moment stuck in my mind. The next day, I avoided that bathroom as much as I could. But eventually, I had to go back. That time, I noticed the mirror looked dirtier than usual, and the cracks seemed bigger. When I looked in, my reflection was normal at first. Then slowly, the reflection's eyes changed. They turned darker, almost black, like deep pits. The smile came back, slow and cruel. I felt a shiver down my spine and stepped back. The bathroom felt colder suddenly, and the sound of dripping water seemed louder. I wanted to run, but my legs felt heavy. I stared at the mirror, and the reflection raised its hand. But it wasn't copying me. It was waving at me. I shook my head, telling myself to stop being crazy. Then I heard it. Soft breathing, coming from behind me. I spun around. No one was there. When I looked back at the mirror, the reflection's face had changed again. It was no longer my face. It looked like a woman with dark hair, pale skin, and eyes that seemed to glow faintly in the dim light. I stepped away, my heart racing. I left the bathroom and didn't go back for a week, but every time I walked past that hallway, I felt like someone was watching me. One afternoon, I was walking by when I heard whispers coming from the bathroom. They were soft, almost like a song, but it sounded sad and angry at the same time. I stayed frozen, listening. The whispers stopped suddenly, and I felt a cold breeze brush past me. I didn't dare look inside. Later that week, I had to use that bathroom again. I was scared, but had no choice. I went in and looked at the mirror once more. My reflection was normal. I reached out to touch the glass, and I swear, the reflection's hand didn't match mine. It hesitated, then pressed its palm flat against the inside of the mirror, like it was trapped. The glass felt cold under my fingers, colder than it should. I pulled my hand away fast. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept seeing the reflection's face, that pale woman with the glowing eyes. The next day, I told a friend about it. She said the school had a rumor about that bathroom. Years ago, a girl had disappeared near there. Some said she was never found, and others said she was seen staring out from the mirrors. I didn't want to believe it, but it made sense. After that, I never looked at that mirror again. I took a different bathroom and avoided the hallway when I could. But sometimes, when I'm home alone, I still think about that mirror. I imagine the woman behind the glass, still trapped, waiting for someone to see her. And I wonder, what if the reflection wasn't just a reflection at all? This happened about 6 years ago when I was still living at home with my parents and my younger sister, Tara. Tara was into old, vintage stuff. She liked collecting strange little things from garage sales or thrift stores, like music boxes, books, and sometimes furniture. One day she came home with this big mirror. It had a silver frame, kind of fancy looking, with little vines and leaf designs carved into it. She said she got it for cheap at an estate sale. I didn't like it right away. Something about it made me uncomfortable. The glass wasn't normal. It had a slight dark tint, and when you looked into it, your reflection looked a little off, a little too still. Tara put it up in her bedroom, right across from her bed. That first night, she said she had weird dreams. She told me the next morning that in her dream, she saw someone standing behind her in the mirror. A woman in an old dress with long hair covering her face. I laughed it off, told her she was just spooking herself. But the next night, I had a dream too. I was in Tara's room, standing in front of the mirror. Everything felt cold. The mirror was foggy, like someone had just breathed on it. And then I saw a hand, pale and thin, press against the inside of the glass. I woke up sweating. I didn't even sleep in the same room as that mirror, but it felt like it reached into my head. Over the next week, Tara started acting strange. She was quiet. Didn't talk much at dinner. She spent more time in her room, staring at the mirror. One evening, I knocked on her door and walked in. She was just standing there, inches from the mirror, staring into it. "Hey," I said. "What are you doing?" She didn't answer right away. Then she said, without turning around, "She talks to me." I felt a chill. "Who talks to you?" "The lady in the mirror," she whispered. "She says she used to live here. She wants to come back." I told her it was just her imagination and pulled her away from the mirror. That night I couldn't sleep again. I kept hearing soft whispers from the hallway, faint, like a woman's voice. It didn't make sense. At around 2 a.m., I walked down the hallway and stopped in front of Tara's room. The door was open just a little. I peeked in. Tara was asleep in her bed, but the mirror, it wasn't reflecting her. Instead, I saw the figure of a woman standing right over her bed, just staring down at her. I flipped on the light. There was no one there. Tara was still sleeping, but the mirror, it took an extra second to show the room correctly. For a moment it still showed the woman standing there. I backed away and shut the door. The next morning I told my parents. They didn't believe me. They said maybe I had a nightmare, or maybe I was just overthinking it. But that night, things got worse. We heard banging from Tara's room. Loud, like something hitting the wall. We ran in, and Tara was on the floor, crying and screaming. She kept saying, "She's trying to pull me in. She wants me in the mirror." The mirror was cracked, a long crack running across the center, like it had been punched from the inside. We took Tara to the hospital that night. They said she was exhausted and stressed, maybe dealing with sleepwalking or hallucinations. While she was gone, I went back into her room. I covered the mirror with a blanket and moved it into the garage. I didn't want it in the house anymore. That should have been the end of it. But even in the garage, weird things started happening. The next night, our garage light turned on by itself. I went to check it out, and the mirror, still covered, had somehow fallen over. The blanket was halfway off, and I swear I saw a handprint on the inside of the glass. A small, pale hand. I told my dad, and finally, he agreed something was wrong. We carried the mirror out to the curb and left it there for garbage pickup. The next morning, it was gone. None of us saw the truck take it, and the trash hadn't been collected yet. It just vanished. Tara got better slowly. She stopped talking about the woman, and she never asked about the mirror again. But sometimes I still think about it. What if that mirror didn't just show reflections? What if someone, was trapped inside it, Or worse, what if it let her out? I don't know who took the mirror from the curb, but I hope, wherever it ended up, the new owner doesn't stare too long, because once you see her, she sees you too.